It's time for Come and Talk It with your host, Michael Cargill, brought to you by Texas Law Shield. Over the last decade, Michael has championed and supported the rights of law-abiding Texans to own and use firearms. He is the owner of Central Texas Gun Works, a veteran of the United States Army, and has achieved national exposure in such prestigious media outlets such as Forbes Magazine, Fox Business News, CNN Money, AOL, BBC World News, Huffington Post, and the New York Times. Cargill vigorously defends lawful gun ownership in this country without regard to party politics. And now, here's Michael Cargill.
Good day, Austin, Texas, the live music capital of the world. Let's praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. All right, so today we're going to talk about, a hostage situation unfolded in Austin, Texas on Tuesday night that left 2 dead. As a patient, can you carry a gun in your doctor's office? Also, Brandon Straka and Joe Biggs were arrested for their role in the Capitol riots. But you know what? Take a look at this video here. This happened in Austin, Texas, in South Austin. Take a look at this video. All right, so what we're looking at is in South Austin on South First Street, it was right on South First Street and Fletcher Avenue. This guy here attacked a lady, a female, in her vehicle. He was trying to carjack her while she was inside her vehicle. This guy banged on the window. He tried to ripped her side mirror off of her vehicle, and this guy has not been captured. He's not been caught yet. And so these are some of the things that people face. And so what this person did, they say, you know what? They wanted to take their own personal protection in their own hands. They decided to walk to the gun store to buy a gun. So I want to talk to you first about what can you do? What can you do about someone attacking you while you're inside your vehicle? And this question comes up a lot in the License to Carry Handgun course. All right, so, a lot of people, someone's attacking their vehicle, they want to shoot this person. Well, unfortunately, the law does not give you that opportunity to shoot this person just because they're attacking your vehicle. We have what we call in Texas the Texas Castle Doctrine. The Texas Castle Doctrine says that if someone's attempting to enter your vehicle or trying to remove you from your vehicle, you can use force or deadly force to stop that person. So let me talk to you about, what can you do as a vehicle owner, as a citizen of this city, this state, this county, this country. What can you do in Texas as far as you having a gun in your vehicle with or without a license? So you don't have to have a license. You do not have to have a license to have a handgun in your vehicle, concealed in your vehicle in Texas. You don't have to have a license for that. You can have a handgun concealed in your vehicle without a license. Long gun, rifle, shotgun, AR-15, AK-47, you can have that in the open in your vehicle. It can be in the open or concealed. You don't need a license for that. But now, let's say someone is attacking your vehicle. They're trying to carjack you. Well, we have in Texas, we call that the Texas Castle Doctrine. The Texas Castle Doctrine says that if someone is attempting to enter your vehicle or trying to remove you from your vehicle unlawfully, you can use force or deadly force to stop that person. So let's say you're at a red light. You're in your vehicle. And all of a sudden, someone comes up to your vehicle. They're pounding on your vehicle. There's nothing that you can do. Stay in your vehicle. I recommend that you roll your windows up, keep your doors locked. Don't let that person get inside your vehicle. There's nothing that you can do. Stay inside your vehicle. You cannot get outside the vehicle. The law does not cover you if you get outside your vehicle. Once you get outside your vehicle, you leave your safety net there, your safety zone. Then the law says, hey, why did you get outside your vehicle? Why did you get that coverage of safety there? So you put yourself in harm's way. So I recommend that you stay inside your vehicle, windows up, doors locked. Now, and keep in mind, I'm not an attorney. I can't give you legal advice. I'm just telling you from a license to carry handgun instructor what we tell people in class. All right, so now this person's pounding on your vehicle. They're attacking your vehicle. They're causing damage to your vehicle. There's nothing that you can do other than insurance to pay for that damage, or you can file a civil suit and make that person pay for it. That's all that you can do. All right, so roll that video one more time. So let's say this person's attacking your vehicle. They're pounding your vehicle. All right, so stay inside your vehicle. Now, let's say they attempt to enter your vehicle. Now, if they're entering your vehicle or they try to remove you from your vehicle, then you can use force, deadly force to stop them. This video that we're watching right now, if this person was to reach into that vehicle, that person can use force or deadly force to stop them. If that person tried to remove that female from that vehicle, she can use force or deadly force to stop him. There's not much she can do because he's just pounding on the vehicle, he's kicking the vehicle, he's ripping the side mirror off the vehicle. There's not a whole bunch that you can do. And unfortunately, that's how the law, the state of Texas, looks at that. So if you don't like the law, you don't like that, then I suggest you go to the Texas State Capitol between now and June, and you get an elected official to create a bill to get that changed if you don't like it, because that's the law. That's how the law looks at it. And that incident happened right there on South First and Fletcher in South Austin. And guess what happened? This guy was not caught. He was not caught. He was not captured. He's still free. He's still walking around in South Austin right now trying to carjack another person. What happened when this incident went down? Well, inside one of the vehicles that witnessed this was a off-duty black police officer. When the police officer showed up, you know what they did? He got out of his vehicle. He said, hey, this guy did this. This guy did this. He was a police officer. He wasn't from Texas. He was from New York. And you know what they did? They were focused on him because he had a gun. So their attention went on this guy because they found out he had a gun. So they focused their attention on him. They didn't focus their attention on the bad guy who actually got away. So this is why I recommend that you stay in your vehicle, windows up, doors locked. Don't mention the fact that you're carrying a gun. Don't show your gun. Don't threaten someone with a gun, because if you do, when the police arrive, they're only going to focus on the gun. That's all they're going to focus on. That's what they're trained to do. They're going to look at that gun, focus on the gun, and that's all they're going to do. So don't do it. Don't pull it out. Don't threaten someone with it. Only pull your gun out if you intend to use it. So stay in your vehicle, windows up, doors locked, and you'll get through that stop. That person enters your vehicle, you stop them. They remove you from your vehicle, you stop them. They try to kill you while you're inside your vehicle, you stop them. And that's how you do it. I don't care if it's a protest. I don't care if it's a riot. I don't care if there are people that are in the roadway on I-35. There's not much under the Texas law that you could do. So that's my advice to you. That's what happened in South Austin. Stay in your vehicle, people. Listen to the law. Take a class. Take your license to carry handgun course, whether you intend to carry a gun or not. Take a class so you know what use of force and deadly force is. You can't take this and learn this online. You can't learn it anywhere else. Come to a class. Ask questions. People are shocked and surprised about what the law says. They're shocked and surprised about what they can do, what they cannot do. When they come to class, ask questions, and let's bring up all these different scenarios. Hey, what if this? What if that? Can I do this? Can I do that? Can I shoot a person in the back? Come to class. Take your license to carry a handgun course. You're going to learn today. I promise you. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Brittany Glaze, and I get my global gun news from Michael Cargill on Come and Talk It.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, I'm going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were compliant with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so a hostage situation unfolded in Austin on Tuesday night that left 2 people dead. And as a patient, can you carry a gun in your doctor's office? So let's talk about this. All right, so on Tuesday night, I'm trying to think what was his title. He was all right, come on, help me out here a little bit. He was a pediatrician, thank you. He was a pediatrician, and he went into another pediatrician's office and to ask, if he could volunteer. But the problem is, when he asked to volunteer, he actually carried a lot of guns with him. He carried guns and ammunition and stuff like that with him. And the pediatrician said, no, I don't need your assistance. And this guy decided to, hold everyone inside the office, the employees, hostage. And one thing unfolded, ended up in the end, the other pediatrician, the female, was actually shot and killed by this other pediatrician. And then he took his own life. He killed himself. So my question to you is, if I'm at the doctor's office and I'm going to my regular doctor's visit, can I carry a gun in my doctor's office? So let me tell you. All right, here's how the Texas law looks at that. You're in Texas, and I want to walk to my doctor's office. Well, the law says that, there's 2 ways for someone to tell me that I cannot carry a gun on private property. One way is they can give me verbal notice. So any employee, the nurse, the individual sitting at the front desk can give me verbal notice to inform me that I cannot carry a gun. But let's say they don't give me verbal notice. Let's say they decide to post a sign. They would have to post a 30.06 or a 30.07 sign that tells me that I cannot conceal carry my handgun or openly carry my handgun on the property. So 30.06 means I cannot conceal carry. 30.07 means I cannot openly carry my handgun with a license on the property. So now let's say, and by the way, that sign's got to be block letters, 1 inch in height, clearly visible to the public in English and Spanish in contrasting colors. It needs to be block letters, 1 inch in height, clearly visible to the public in English and Spanish in contrasting colors. English needs to be exact wording. Spanish be left to interpretation. That's what the Texas law says for the specifications of the sign. So let's say when I walk into the doctor's office, I go into my doctor's office. Let's say they have this sign on a 8x11 sheet of paperwork, 8x11 sheet of paper. Well, you know what? Let's say I didn't see the sign because it was too small. It was on an 8x11 sheet of paper. It was too small. I didn't see it, didn't notice it. Let's say when I walked into the doctor's office, the letters were faded. I didn't see the sign. I didn't notice it. Let's say when I walked into the doctor's office, the sign was on the wall. I didn't see it. I didn't notice it. Well, as of September the 1st, 2019, if I don't see the sign, I don't notice it, then they would have to give me verbal notice. So When I walk to the office, I'm going to make sure I do a good job of concealed carrying my handgun. If I'm doing a good job of concealed carrying my handgun and I don't see the sign, I don't notice it, then they have to give me verbal notice. Then that means that I would have to be doing a bad job of concealing my handgun because they would have to give me verbal notice because I didn't see the sign. I didn't notice it. So now, yes, in a situation like that, I can carry my handgun with a license in my doctor's office if I didn't see the sign, I didn't notice it because they would have to give me verbal notice. The only way for a doctor's office to go around something like this is they would literally put in, have to be part of their check-in process to tell you verbally, no handguns are allowed. Every single person that checks in at the doctor's office. That would be the solid way to make sure or wand you, check you with a wand metal detector as you walk into the doctor's office. That's a sure way to make sure you're not carrying your handgun. And just so you know, people, by the way, every time I walk into my doctor's office, I always carry my gun. I carry 2 guns, 45 and 38 special. That's how I roll. Zach?
Yeah, 38 Special is a wheel gun, much more reliable.
Much more reliable. And it doesn't have a hammer on it. So no matter what happens, if it's not going to snag on anything, there's no hammer to it, that's right. I'll be able to pull that trigger every single time.
Yeah, you got a nice one in the Smith & Wesson?
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, so I make sure that I took my own personal protection in my own hands. I'm not going to put it up to the doctor's office to protect me. I'm not going to call 911 wait for the police to protect me. I'm going to take my own personal protection in my own hands and protect myself. It is up to me to protect myself, not the police, because the police have no duty to protect you. It's going to be up to me to take my own personal protection in my own hands. So let me bring into the conversation Dr. Boone. Dr. Boone, he's well, you know what? Dr. Boone, I want you to introduce yourself. Tell people what you do, what's your profession, what's your background.
Yeah, well, thanks, Mike. Always a pleasure to be on your show, and I always learn something while I'm listening to you. So,
yes, sir.
I'm a clinical psychologist, presently working as clinical director at a place called Warrior's Heart, which is a treatment facility for veterans, active duty service members, and first responders exclusively, who have what we call co-occurring disorders, substance abuse disorders primarily, and also behavioral health disorders, primarily PTSD. Just as a little background, I spent 26 years in the military, both the Navy and the Army, and so that's why working at Warrior's Heart is kind of in my wheelhouse. And so that's a little bit about who I am.
And see, I never told Dr. Boone this because, just so you know, Dr. Boone, I actually am an 80% disabled veteran. I'm 80%.
Well, I'm 50%, so you've got me by 30 there.
Hot diggity dog. I make more money than you, Dr. Boone.
There's no doubt about that. No question about that. But, that's an interesting story that you started the segment off with, the pediatrician on pediatrician. It sounds like there's much more to the story than you were able to relate.
Yes, sir.
Very unfortunate.
And it's probably more stuff that's going to come out from this that we don't know about. Absolutely. So, but I want you to talk about, what are some of the things that we can do? Let's say there's a family member, someone in our family that has mental health issues. What are some of the things that we can do? Because I get people that will walk into the gun store that will buy a gun. Just about a month ago, about a month ago, I had a young lady walk into the gun store to buy a gun. And we didn't notice anything about this young lady, nothing out of the ordinary. She bought the gun, she passed the background check, she walked out the store. Well, exactly 1 minute after she walked out of the store, the police showed up looking for this young lady. They said she's got some mental health issues. She wants to commit suicide. Where is she located? Well, after a bunch of stuff that took place, I had to, I pulled up my security camera footage, and I have like 16 cameras around that building. We were able to figure out where this young lady went. She was on foot, and they were able to make contact with her just behind the building because she literally left about a minute ago. And so I want people to understand, what are some of the things that they can do, if you have a family member that's in mental crisis, what are some of your options out there?
Well, the question really is a matter of prevention, and it sounds like, Mike, that may have been a situation in which something worked. The police obviously were alerted by someone that this young woman who had apparently some mental issues and maybe some suicidality was going to purchase a gun would you please stop her from using it against herself? So that may have been a situation that actually some proactive action was taken and tragedy prevented. But to me, the issue is primary prevention, and you mentioned family. So often, as you probably know, Mike, people ignore the signs. They don't want to bring up uncomfortable, unpleasant topics such as someone's excessive use of alcohol or their isolation or their, strange or abruptly changed behavior. We as family members tend to let that stuff go, and then the next thing you know, that person has tried to harm himself or possibly harm someone else, or they're just suffering silently because no one will address the problem. So to me, it's family members, loved ones, co-workers, supervisors having the courage to say to that individual, hey, I've noticed that there's been these changes, or it seems like you're troubled. Let's talk about it. Because most of the time, the other person is going to be relieved that you finally brought it up. They're not going to be angry with you. They're going to be relieved. So, Mike, that's one thing. But if that doesn't happen and the individual is kind of left on his own, there's always the local emergency room. That's my go-to place. If you, as an individual who is experiencing some kind of emotional, psychological problems, you don't really have to go to the specialist right away. You don't have to come and see me. Just go to your emergency room, Mike. Talk to the nurse. Tell them what's going on. Help will be available to you just through that simple action.
All right, so we're talking with Dr. Boone, and we're talking about the shooting that happened earlier this week where one doctor shot another doctor. Police say that they received a hot shot call around 4:30 p.m. on Tuesday afternoon from the Children's Medical Group office at 1912 West 35th Street. The caller reported that a male subject had entered the doctor's office with a gun and was holding hostages inside. According to police, several hostages were being held initially, with a total of 5 employees inside the office initially. No patients or children were in the building when the suspect arrived, police said. Some of the hostages were able to escape, while others were later allowed to leave, eventually leaving just 43-year-old Dr. Catherine Lindley Dotson and the suspect, who police have identified as 43-year-old Dr. Bharat Namaruchi. Based on interviews with the hostages, police determined that Namaruchi had been to the office to apply for a volunteer position a week ago. According to police, Namaruchi was a pediatrician who was recently diagnosed with terminal cancer. The hostage told officers that he was armed with a pistol and what appeared to be a shotgun and had 2 duffel bags. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Coley on Noir, and you're listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be used against you regardless of the Miranda warnings because you're not in custody. If you're put in handcuffs but you say something incriminating on your own without being questioned, those statements can and will be used against you because you're not being interrogated. You're just starting to spout off.
Tuesday night that left 2 dead. As a patient, can you carry a gun in a doctor's office? Also, Brandon Straka and Joe Biggs were arrested for their role in the Capitol riots. So, all right, so we have inside the studio, I actually have Kenneth Flippin. All right, the reason I bought Kenneth inside the studio because Kenneth is very opinionated on my Facebook page, my personal page. So I said, you know what? Let's get this guy into the show here. Let's hear what he has to say because he has a lot to say on social media, and I like to talk to people face to face. So we're talking about, during the break, we're talking about, this case of the family, and the responsibility lies a lot on the family if you know that there's something wrong with the family member. It's not about guns. It's not about, because a person can use anything, any tool to commit suicide or, to kill someone. So it's not really about gun. It's about, what can we do as a family to, jump into that situation and figure out what we can do to stop a family member or to protect them from killing themselves.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that there's a lot more, both sides shoot accusations at each other. One side wants to take away all your guns, and the other side is, total gun freedom with no limitation. And neither of those realities are true. We all got into one-on-one discussions about it. I think we'd find we agree a whole lot more than we disagree. But I just think there's a space there where there is family responsibility, but also that goes a lot into both the legal system of people that have criminal backgrounds and also the mental health arena. When you do have somebody in your family that for one reason or another, whether it's, institutionalizing that person or because you're worried, wanting to eliminate the possibility of a gun being available for a means of suicide, and having those discussions in both a legal, psychological realm is where I think we're missing the whole boat, because these are the things where we could save some lives by having some common sense reforms where both sides talk in an informed way instead of just throwing accusations at each other that we don't care about these people because we feel so strongly one way or the other.
All right. So, when it comes to a person being a mental defective, though, once you're in the system, there's really no way to get out of that system. So once you've been admitted into a facility against your will, once you're in it, there's no way to get out of it.
I don't know if that's true. I think you'd have to talk to people that are probably more experienced in the mental health arena. I know that it takes a lot to get a person institutionalized against their will, and I know that when they do that, a lot of times the people that would do that for them, they're only doing it because they love them. Mm-hmm. And if they feel like there's an opportunity for that person to get better, especially if they get institutionalized and they get mental health treatment, which is advanced quite a bit in the last couple decades. People with paranoid schizophrenia and all of these different disorders, before then we were kind of just using whatever treatments were tested. Now there's things that are helping these people, and they can find themselves a way out, and they do have constitutional rights that if they eventually gain their mental health, even if whoever institutionalized them, I think they have pushback in the legal arena to gain back their rights. But again, I'd have to ask experts to really justify what I feel like is the legal arena they have.
All right. So when you fill out the 4473, which is the form that you fill out when you walk into the gun store, one of the questions that you're answering is a question 21F that says that have you ever been adjudicated as a mental defective or have been committed to a mental institution? If you answer yes to that question, that's an automatic no. You cannot buy a gun. There's no background check done on you. It's an automatic no. There's no what if this. There's no what if were you then eventually down the road, released or anything like that. There's no what if. The question is, have you ever been committed to a mental institution? If you have, then you cannot purchase a gun.
In the state of Texas.
Federally. That is every state in the United States. That's federal law.
Well,
so there's no way out of that. So once you're in the system, once you're in, there's no way out when it comes to purchasing a gun.
Well, and I would imagine that if a person from that condition took that to the courts, they would probably find that what I would consider their First Amendment rights, not their Second Amendment rights, would probably go all the way to the Supreme Court. And a person that had been adjudicated to be healthy or whatever would probably be able to purchase that gun by just opposing it through the court system.
The first part of that question is, have you ever been adjudicated as a mental defective? So even adjudicated, they actually have that covered. So the only way out of that is you would have to get it expunged or pardoned, get it wiped from your record. That's the only way. And that's hard. That's hard to do.
Well, I agree that would be hard. But I'm also saying, let's just take a test example. If you knew somebody that had been in that situation and you said, hey, I can't sell you this gun. But you know what? I think we have a legal case here, and you got him a good lawyer. I'm telling you, if you took it to the court, they would probably have a case. And that's how our system works.
Yeah. See, the thing is,
individuals overcome. We create these laws not because of the exceptions, but because of the rules. The exceptions is where our judicial system says, oh, wait, you made too broad a statement there in saying that anybody that has any legal history, it may be well-intentioned, but it's imposing on this person's rights.
And see,
so that person could
and all that
overturn it.
sounds great. I like what you're saying, but according to the law and what it says here on the 4473, that person cannot be in possession of a firearm. And what you're saying is they need to come up with 20 grand, 30 grand to fight that case and go all the way to the Supreme Court.
Well, that's the way our system works, because we have a democracy where we work out all these different agreements in a system where somebody has to take it to the court system.
They got to take it.
I mean, I'm just saying that's the pragmatics of living in a democratic society where we all have to come to agreement on these laws.
Just so you know, according to the 4473, if you have ever been adjudicated or as a mental defective or have ever been committed to a mental institution, you cannot purchase a firearm. They will not conduct a background check. It's automatic no. There's no they will not proceed past this point to even run the background check. Just so you know. All right, so let's go back to Dr. Boone. Dr. Boone, sir, what's your thoughts on, what do we do as far as mental health? Oh, okay. All right, so we'll get Dr. Boone here back in a little bit. All right, so I do want to switch gears a little bit and talk about, once again, let me remind you what can you do as a patient? Can you carry a gun in your doctor's office? Yeah, you can carry a gun in your doctor's office unless the doctor's office posts a 30.06 or 30.07 sign, unless they tell you verbally. But there's a law that went into effect September 1st, 2019 that says that if they post a sign, but you don't see the sign, you don't notice it, now they have to give you verbal notice. So if you have your license to carry a handgun, you carry into your doctor's office, you're doing a good job of concealing your handgun. If they don't give you verbal notice because you don't see the sign, you don't notice it, then you can carry your gun. So yeah, that's the way the law is. So come on back to class. Let us give you an update of what are some of the changes in the laws from 2019. Because, ladies and gentlemen, every 2 years our laws in Texas do change. Our elected officials are, they're elected into the office, that even year, that odd year, they take office. That odd year from January to June, they're at the Texas State Capitol and they're changing laws. And so for those 6 months, January to June, things do change. So you got to know what the laws are and what are some of the changes every single 2 years. Learn those laws. Last week, I caused a stir on social media on Facebook because people were upset because I said that Senator Bob Hall will single-handedly kill constitutional carry. You know why I said that? Here's why I said that. Because Senator Bob Hall, by putting constitutional carry on the ballot, here's what's going to happen. I'm not an idiot. I'm a chess player. All right, so I play chess. I love chess. Chess is like my favorite game. If I want to kill constitutional carry, here's what I'm hearing. So Beto O'Rourke is going to run for governor. So he's going to run for governor for Texas. Governor Abbott's going to run for re-election. You know what? The Democrats going to flood Texas with money. Regardless, Governor Abbott has a war chest. He's prepared to fight for his seat, his position. He will win his re-election for governor. But guess what? All that money that they push into Texas, they're going to rally a bunch of Democrats to vote. They're going to vote for Beto O'Rourke. He's still going to lose. Abbott's going to win. But then constitutional carry, what's on the ballot, guess what? There are a lot of Republicans, I would say at least about 20% of Republicans that don't like constitutional carry. They like the license carry handgun system that we have. How do I know this? It's simple. I look at the board of the Texas State Rifle Association. When you look at the Texas State Rifle Association, here's what it is. The members on the board, a lot of them don't like for gun owners to actually carry guns other than police officers. They don't like that. So those people, that 20%, are going to vote against constitutional carry. Constitutional carry will fail if it's on the ballot. It's simple math, people. Wake up and smell the coffee. Yeah. Don't let him fool you. This Senator, Bob Hall, is trying to single-handedly kill constitutional carry. I'm a chess player. I do this. I've been in Texas politics for over 20 years. I know how this game is played. If your elected officials wanted something passed, they would go to the Capitol, they would write a bill, they would bring it to the floor, they would pass it, and it would become law. That's how it's done. If we were to put concealed carry on campus on the bill in Texas, it would fail. You bring concealed carry on campus, can a license holder carry a handgun inside the building of a college campus on the ballot? That would fail. But if your elected officials bring up a bill, they pass it, it passes, it becomes law, then we're done. That's how it's done. There's no ands or buts about it. All right, so also, late in the hour, I want to talk about the Proud Boys. I want to talk about the leader, Enrique Terrio. He was an FBI informant. He says he was not. He says, he's a victim of, they're just blowing this out of proportion. Also, I want to talk about the Proud Boys organizer, Joe Biggs. He's been charged in the Capitol riot also. He also has a GoFundMe page out there. I want to talk about what's happening in downtown Austin with our homeless situation. Man, I tell you, the city of Austin, they're buying hotels. They're buying a hotel to put the homeless in. What's happening is, as you get, those who did not die of COVID-19, this is going to get flagged on Facebook and Twitter. Those who did not die of COVID-19, that are still alive, they're actually going to get into a hotel, and new people are moving to the city of Austin to become homeless. All these people that I'm seeing on Ben White and 290 and Manchac and 290 are new people moving in. The old people have died. A lot of them have died of COVID-19. These are things they don't tell you. We're going to talk about that. Also, want to talk about H.R. 127. H.R. 127, that's a bill in Congress, a U.S. Congress, that they want to register your guns. They want you to take a 24-hour class. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Jack Jones here, and I get my gun news from Michael Cargill on Come and Talk It.
Hello, my name is Edwin Walker. I'm an independent program attorney with Texas Law Shield. I want to talk to you today about an issue that we see on a daily basis. In fact, you yourself will encounter it on a daily basis, and that is the subject of road rage. I am sure that you have all seen road rage. You may have actually been involved in a road rage incident. Now, if you're a responsible gun owner, I'm going to give you a few words of advice on how to react when you find yourself in one of these unfortunate road rage incidents. While on the roadways, we all observe something that makes us upset. Whether it's poor driving, unsafe driving, or just simply somebody being very discourteous. by all means, you should restrain yourself from engaging that person and telling them how bad their actions were, because this can be perceived as an act of road rage. If you're a lawful gun owner, you have a firearm in your vehicle, you do not want to be viewed as the aggressor in a road rage situation. Now, with regard to a situation where an individual has chosen to rage against you, and you are the actual victim of the road rage, if you and the other individuals are still in their automobiles, do not use your firearm to respond to any of the rager's activities. This is because law enforcement views the fact that you're both still safely in your metal boxes as removing any threat of immediacy that you may be harmed. So please, if you have a gun, somebody is raging against you, forget you have a gun. Don't display it, don't brandish it, don't show it, don't point it, and for God's sake, don't fire it. This could result in a lot of trouble for you. Now let's look at a situation where a road rage incident has escalated. It has escalated to the point where one of the participants has actually gotten out of their vehicle. We recommend that you stay in your vehicle at all times. Do not exit your vehicle, because the person who exits their vehicle is going to be looked at as the aggressor. If the other individual has exited their vehicle and they are not in contact with your vehicle and they do not have a weapon, then do not feel that you can display your weapon in an act of self-defense. People are allowed to just simply stand there and scream at you, scream whatever they want. Until they make a demonstrative effort to try to harm you, there is no immediate threat that would justify displaying or shooting or brandishing your firearm.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're talking about a lot of stuff today. Talking about the hot situation that unfolded in Austin, Texas on Tuesday. We're talking about, as a patient, can you carry a gun in your doctor's office? Yes, unless they post a sign to tell you verbally. You don't see the sign, you don't notice it, then they got to give you verbal notice. So with your license, you can carry your gun in the doctor's office. I do. I carry my gun everywhere. Everywhere. Zach, I carry my gun everywhere, Zach. Everywhere.
All three of them?
I'm not answering that question. Are you police? Are you law enforcement? I don't answer those questions.
Maybe. You have it right now, don't you, Michael?
I'm not telling you. I can't answer that. You could be an undercover cop. I'm not talking to you. I don't answer those questions. I don't talk to police. All right. And also, when talking to Brandon Straka and talk about Brandon Straka and Joe Biggs, they were arrested for their role in the Capitol riots. I want to talk about that. But you know what? Hey, Johnny Camarillo, he says, hey, when is the price of ammo going back down? Any feedback on this? Well, yes, Johnny. Well, you know what, Johnny? I think we're done for. Let me see. The best way I can say this without getting deleted or dumped on the live radio show is we are done for as it comes for ammo for the next 3 years. That's it. You're done. You know, flip a lid. That's it. It's all over. Next 3 years, we're going to be backed up on ammunition. So we're at a precipice where you have the highest demand of firearms in the history of this country. That's where we are. And so it's called supply and demand. That's what a lot of people don't understand. So the supply is low, the demand is high, the price is going to be high. That's what it is.
Come on, man.
Yes, come on. Don't you know this?
You know, Chris Rock said it best.
What did Chris Rock say?
He said, basically, you don't even need gun control. All you need is ammo control. You make a bullet $500 a piece, there's going to be no more, drive-by shootings with collateral damage.
Yeah. And I tell you, it's funny when people come into the shop, they come in, hey, you got a box of ammo? 9 mil? No, we don't. Not unless you're taking a class with us. If you're taking a light carry handgun course, we'll say some ammo. But if you're just trying to buy ammo, box of ammo because you need some ammo to go to the range, we're not going to sell it to you. You know why? It's supply and demand. If I sell ammo to everyone that walked into the gun store who wanted to buy a box of ammunition, I would be sold out in an hour. And instead, I say that for people who are taking a class with us. You're taking your light carry handgun course, we got some ammo to sell to you.
So you got to blame capitalism for the high price of ammo. Is that right?
Capitalism. That's right. Supply and demand. That's right. You get it. What are some of the things that we agree on, Mr. Kenneth Flippin?
Well, I think we agree that there is a place for some restrictions, like with background checks. We probably
No, we don't agree on that.
You don't think there's any place for a
No
background
place
check?
whatsoever on the restrictions.
Even though
if I want to carry a missile,
them,
I should be able to own a missile.
Even though you enforce them in your own gun shop.
If a family member comes into the gun store, they say, "Look, my family member has some issues. Something's going on. They want to commit suicide." That's if a family member says that, they contact me. I have to take that serious,
right.
Because I don't want that on my conscience. So it's more of a conscience thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what about the person that's not your family member, but has a criminal background check that if you did go through the proper procedure, you wouldn't be able to get them a gun? Do you want to be able to sell them a gun?
So I went to the proper background check, and this person still passed the background check, which this person did. And then what happened?
Well, I'm saying they failed the background check.
Oh, they failed. Hey, that's on them.
Do you want to sell the gun to that person?
No, absolutely not. Because the law says, no, I can't sell it because it's very simple. Have you been convicted of a felony? Have you been admitted, against your will in a mental facility? Are you dishonorably discharged from the military? There's certain things that, hey.
Do you agree with any of those?
I don't agree with the a controlled substance such as marijuana. I don't agree with that. But the law says yes, so I'm going to follow the law.
Okay, so I would say.
So here's what I do. What I do is I work in the context of the law. I say, you know what? I'm going to go to the U.S. Capitol and try to get that law changed. I work with the law. Is what I do.
I would work with you on that to say, let's come together between the different varying.
You look like a pothead, so I believe that.
And we would come to some kind of reasonable view of what are reasonable restrictions and what aren't. And then we advocate those to our elected leaders, and they ultimately create those laws. And and you ultimately enforce them as a gun owner, right?
Right.
And so I'm saying you actually, by that very nature, are agreeing that there is some reasonable limitation on gun ownership, and that you as person that sells them.
I agree that there's some rules that I don't like that I have to follow because I'm forced to follow them, and I want to get them changed, but I don't agree with them.
But do you agree with some of them? Is there anybody that you don't think that you should be able to sell a gun to?
I think that if we don't have you locked up for some reason or another, if there's no reason for me to keep you locked up either in jail or in a mental health facility, then if you want to buy a gun, you should be able to buy a gun.
So
if I'm released from jail, I'm a convicted felon and I've been released, I've been released from jail, I'm off of paper, then I should be able to possess a firearm and have it anywhere I want to have it.
No matter whether you've used those guns and you've used guns in the past.
That is correct, because they put me in jail. I paid my debt to society, so I've been released, then I should be feared. I should have all my rights back.
Okay. Well, I would argue that.
See, I'm much crazier than you thought.
Well, no, I thought that's about exactly crazy where you were, and I would just say that we have the right as a society to fundamentally disagree.
Right.
And even you would agree with this, obviously.
Sure.
That if we come to an agreement on that, you're going to enforce the law in whatever way we as a democracy.
Absolutely. I'm going to enforce the law because I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to be convicted of a felony. I don't want to lose my gun rights forever. So I'm going to have to, unfortunately, enforce that law. But I'm going to work with my U.S. congressman, my U.S. senator, and try to get those laws changed.
We don't live in a democracy, right?
Mm.
This is a constitutional republic.
Well, those things are not contradictory. There are a lot of places that call themselves a republic. You can live in a republic because it gives you rights as a citizen. In America, we live in a constitutional democratic republic. All the words have meaning separately, but they also contribute to one another. We control our rights in the republic through our democracy. We're a democracy because we elect our elected leaders. That's what makes us democracy. What makes us a republic is our Constitution and the rights that it gives. You can have both at the same time, and it's not a contradiction to say we're in a republic and say, oh, well, we're not in a democracy. Well, we happen to be in both. Russia happens to be a place that calls itself a republic, but because it doesn't have a democracy, the republic doesn't really exist. So I'd actually say the opposite is true. You can only really have a republic if you have a democracy, and you can only really have a truly democratic republic if democracy is more important than the republic.
What do you think is more important, the republic or democracy?
I actually think the democracy is more important because both of these are concepts, human created concepts that we've decided to govern ourselves by. And the fact that a republic gives us all individual constitutional rights. And that is fundamentally important because we use democracy to create slavery, but we also use democracy to destroy slavery in this country. At least, slavery that's institutionalized by government. And so I'd say democracy is more important because it allows us to evolve as a society and make our republic better. And so both are important, but I have to put more importance on democracy.
But it could also let us devolve. If 51% of the population votes to kill and eat the other 49%.
That's right. And that's why ideally the best government is one that's a republic run by like a really wonderful dictator that loves us and is wonderful to us and gives all of our freedoms and is super smart and intelligent. But that's not realistic. It's not realistic. Instead, we got us running shit, and we're pretty stupid and uninformed and uneducated, and we make a lot of mistakes, and we do horrible things to each other through our democracy, like slavery. But as bad a form of government as democracy is, it's better than all other forms of government.
Maybe not the constitutional republic.
Well, again, I think the two are tied together. I mean, that's what makes the great American experiment great, is that it does involve both. If we could get to a constitutional republic where we need the least amount of government possible and we need the least amount of it to protect ourselves from each other.
That'll never happen.
Well, it probably will never happen, but I think we will evolve to that state eventually.
That's a big assumption there.
It is.
That we'll just rise up. We will become better.
Well, we've overcome a lot of
smarter.
We've overcome a lot of
Haven't you
our
seen
problems
Idiocracy?
in the past. Yeah, and we may evolve in that direction, but we could also evolve in the other direction. I mean, look at the international poverty rate and of extreme poverty and people that die of starvation.
Brought out of poverty by the tens of thousands every day.
Around the world, over the last 30 years, tens of millions of people have been brought out of poverty and out of starvation and so forth that existed at much higher rates before we started doing all of this international work. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, we can change and make things better. We can choose to go either way.
And Derek Wills is on the edge of his seat. He's got a lot to say. We come back from the break. We're going to bring Derek Wills. He's on Skype. Going to bring him into this conversation. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Folks, this is Doug Man Jones. And I get my gun news from Michael Cargill at Come and Talk It.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
Oh, man, as we look at a beautiful picture of downtown Austin, Texas. This skyline is beautiful. Oh, this is a beautiful city. It's no longer the best kept secret in Texas. We've been found, we've been discovered. Now they're moving here from New York and California all over the place. It's time for me to go. Let me tell you, it is time to go. They have found us. We're no longer beautiful. It's no longer the best kept secret, but it's still beautiful. No longer the best kept secret. We got man, what's that tall building that's downtown?
Independent?
The Independent. That's the tallest one so far right now. Mm-hmm. And then next one after that is what?
The Austonian.
The Austonian. Right? Yeah, it's beautiful. I tell you, I love looking at the beautiful skyline of downtown Austin. Beautiful. All right, so let me bring in Derek Wills. I know you're at the edge of your seat, Derek. You got a lot to say. What is going on? What are your thoughts?
Oh, I have lots of thoughts. My question is, I forget your guest's name.
Kenneth Flippin, because he's flip at the mouth
Kenneth,
on Facebook.
I apologize, sir.
No problem.
That's what I like to say. He's flip.
So I got a question for you. Do you, as an individual, have the authority over me to tell me what I can do with my life, my property, and the fruits of my labor?
Of course not.
Okay. So what if you, Mike, Gary, and everybody else in the studio banded together? Would y'all as a group have the authority to have more of a say over my life, property, and the fruits of my labor?
Of course not.
So what gives the state that authority?
Because we, as members of that state, as citizens of that state, as people that have agreed to abide by the laws of that state by continuing to be members of that state, we come up with all kinds of agreements, like a speed limit on the road.
I never agreed to any of that.
Well, I'm
did
sure
you agree
that
to the National Firearms Act of 1934?
I'm sure that you didn't agree to all of the different restrictions and speed limits because it's a complicated society with a lot of different laws. And that's why we elect our leaders to create those laws. And so to say that none of those laws, to say that they don't apply because a group can't tell you what to do, is to say none of those laws apply, including a law against murder, for example.
I'll get into that if we have time. But so let's say that you and your great-great-grandfather enters into a very complicated contract, a business contract with another company. Should you be tied to the terms of that contract just because you're the great-great-grandson?
Well, it probably depends on the legitimacy of that contract. If my great-great-great-grandfather, which was involved here in Texas in the Civil War that we fought as a slave owner, you can probably figure out what side he fought on. If his little business that he created out of that, if I somehow owned it and there were contractual agreements that I had made that still existed legally, I probably would be obligated. So yeah, it's possible.
But you never signed into that contract. If you never signed a contract, you can't be bound by the rules and terms and conditions of that contract.
Sure I can. If I inherit that business from a parent or from a great-grandparent or whatever.
No.
I didn't have to be there originally signing all of those things to take on whatever legal obligations are made by that.
Under no what you're saying is that people who are now long dead have bound you to a contract that you weren't even alive to agree to. And you think that that is okay?
As long as I'm operating under that, just the same way that I'm operating under the same things that created the Second Amendment. I think the Second Amendment still applies. Don't you agree?
To me, the wording of the Second Amendment, its very existence is irrelevant to me because I believe in natural rights.
Well, what about the First Amendment? Okay, so you don't think that any of those actually give you any rights whatsoever because you believe
none of the Bill of Rights gives me anything.
Then we just disagree. I think that those actually make a real difference in making the natural rights that you're talking about explicit among men. And that's where a democracy comes in, is that we take those natural rights and we use our intellect to argue them into a way that they can be framed into a constitution so we can live among each other civilly.
Okay, do you have your life? Are you alive because the government says that you're alive, or is that a natural right of yours? It's transcendent upon government. Like it transcends government.
Of course, it
is
transcends
natural.
government. Government
Okay.
is a human created creation out of our minds, just like all of these other institutions. And so, of course, it doesn't give me anything. I only enter into agreements with it because I, in my human consciousness, agree to be part of a society, just like I can agree to be part of a church or a community.
And if you don't agree, why should you still be bound by that contract?
Well, it's just like all things that are complicated. There are areas of gray. I can disagree about some fundamental issues or some technical issues, but agree in principle that there are larger reasons why entering into that institution is valuable, whether it's a governmental institution where I say, I'm glad to be part of the state of Texas, where I can go advocate to change the laws to make them more like I think they should be. And you have the same freedom. I have that ability to choose to be in that or out of that. You can move to a place where you have just your rights as an individual that God gave you, and not to be part of a society. But if you're going to be in our society, you either can be part of that or you can believe whatever you want. And I don't say that there's anything wrong with you believing that you have your natural rights and none of this applies to you. That's your freedom of belief too.
I don't have that choice, because if I were to move out, if I were to buy 1,000 acres in the middle of nowhere, right, and I were to become completely self-sufficient, the state would still extort any income that I grant, any or gain. They would extort the value of my property. And should I fail to comply with any of that, they will send men with guns to either arrest me or kill me should I resist that attempted kidnapping. So I don't have that choice. I live in a state of duress where I am forced to comply with the royal edicts from this body of men and women whom I've never met, who have more of a say over my life, my property, and the fruits of my labor than I do.
I think that's all in your own head, my friend. I think that
Really?
all of us have more control over our lives than other people that we imagine because they believe they're part of an institution that we allow them to give that control.
Okay, do you pay your property taxes every year?
Well, I don't own a home, so I can't say that I do, except for in the fact that I pay my landlord, and I know that he pays his property taxes. So in that transverse way, yes, I do, sir.
Okay, what about your income? Do you pay your income taxes every year?
I do when I have enough income to actually be taxed.
Right, and do you agree with the amount that you are taxed, or you just comply from a state of duress because you know that if you don't pay this, then you will be met with force?
Well, I agree with the fundamentals of how the system has been instituted, and I'm very appreciative to have the roads and the school system and all the other things like the military that protects our rights. I'm more than glad to be part of a system that I disagree with parts of it.
Well, that doesn't answer my question. If you are, do you disagree with the amount of tax that you pay? And if you do you pay the amount that you disagree with from a state of duress, or do you happily pay it?
I happily pay the amount that I agree that I should have to pay, but based on a system that I'm in. Well, the system, whatever they charge me, is something that I, by being part of this system, have agreed to. And whether or not again, you can go to other places where there aren't these heavy taxation systems. There's countries that literally you can go to that there won't be that many taxes, and you'll also still have your rights that come from God.
except that I won't, and that's the problem, because no matter where I go, the state, no matter what state it is, and by state I mean the general form of government, will always invariably have more of a say over my life, my property, and the fruits of my labor than I as the individual do. And that's the problem. You were talking earlier about mental health. Well, who establishes those guidelines? The state. And even if you disagree with them because you have duly elected them, that means that you agree by proxy, I guess. But the thing is, under no circumstances, and I'm talking even current law, statutory law, is any contract considered valid if the parties do not explicitly agree to all of the terms and conditions. But yet, whenever it comes to the government and how we, in our process, we are bound by all of it, regardless of our agreement. I absolutely disagree with Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution, specifically where it grants Congress the power to extort the fruits of my labor in the form of taxation. Yet I am bound by that, even though it was written, as well as the tax code, written before I was even born, enacted by men who are long dead, and yet I am still bound by those. You don't see any fundamental issue with those at all.
No, because I see that, it's
and you know what? Hold that thought. We come back from the break, I'm going to let you answer that question.
All right.
Frank Navarro says, Michael Cargill, you mean to tell me you never came across a person in your life that you've looked at and said to yourself, this person should not probably own a gun? Yes, I see that, come across that every single day at the gun store. Let me tell you. And my employees say, you know what? Don't sell this person a gun. And you know what we do? We don't sell them a gun. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Peace, this is Maj Toure. You're listening to Come and Talk It Radio with Michael Cargill.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were compliant with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're back and we're talking about, let's go over some news around the country. Let's talk about the Proud Boys organizer, Joe Biggs, has been charged in Capitol riot. Now, Joe Biggs is a good friend of mine. I like Joe Biggs. You know, people saying, oh, man, Joe Biggs, he's with the Proud Boys. You know, Joe Biggs, he's not racist. Joe Biggs is a good friend of mine. I actually like Joe. We hang out. We've had some drinks together. Joe Biggs is a great guy. But he has been charged and arrested, with what happened at the Capitol on January 6th. Proud Boys organizer Joe Biggs was arrested in Florida on Wednesday in connection with the riot at the Capitol earlier this month, adding to the growing list of federal cases against those who took part in the mob. Biggs, an organizer of the far-right all-male group of self-described Western, I don't know what that is. Chauvinists was identified through multiple videos and photos, according to a criminal complaint signed by an FBI agent who worked the case. Now, the charges say he was one of the first to enter the Capitol building through a door that was opened by a small group that got in by breaking a window with a police body shield. So we'll see how this all develops, and hopefully we'll get Joe Biggs on the show to let us know, his side of the story, because we're getting only one side right now, because I love to hear from Joe Biggs to find out, what his take is on some of this stuff. Also, Brandon Straka, we've had him on the show before as well. Trump activist Brandon Straka was charged over the Capitol riot after the FBI noticed him posting video of himself there. Prosecutors say, this right-wing activist Brandon Straka is among those charged over the January 6th Capitol riot. The FBI received multiple tip-offs of footage he had posted to social media at the event. In the footage, he is said to have shouted, "Go, go," at those entering the building. So we'll find out as this progresses along also what's going to happen with Brandon Straka. And then also, have you heard about H.R. 127? That's right, H.R. 127. Man, take a look at this bill. I want you guys to look at this. H.R. 127. So this bill says a lot. It's all about the licensing of firearms and ammunition, possession, registration of firearms. And this is a federal bill. This is national. This is not in Texas. This is in D.C. at the Capitol. This is a bill that's sponsored by Miss Jackson Lee. She wrote this bill. And this bill says a lot. What are some things you see in the bill, Zach?
Oh, man, this is a nasty one.
It's very nasty.
Disgusting.
It's dirty.
So it's a federal bill. It's not just a state bill.
I would even wipe myself with using this toilet paper.
I wouldn't touch it. No.
Mm-mm.
So it's a federal bill. It basically says if you have a gun or if you're going to buy a gun, then you have to jump through every hoop imaginable. So it's basically going to be a registry. They're going to have all firearms registered. And
they want to know, when they say register your firearm, they're saying they want to know the make, the model, the serial number of the firearm, the identity of the owner of the firearm, the date the firearm was acquired by the owner, and where the firearm is or will be stored.
Yeah, and who else is in the house, right?
Oh, and when it comes to who's in the house, man, they want to know, they want everyone who's going to be around the firearm inside the house to have a mental eval. Anyone that's going to be in that household, you got to have a mental eval.
Yeah, and if you're ever going to loan that gun out, if you're going to let a friend shoot that gun, then you have to give notice to the federal government.
And they say in the case of a firearm acquired before the effective date of this section, within 3 months after the effective date of this section, or in the case of a firearm acquired on or after effective date on the date of the owner requires the firearm. So they want to know a lot, and they want to know it real quick within 3 days. 3 months.
Yeah, they're going to do a background check on you. They want to do that full mental health evaluation. You have to go through 24 hours of firearms training as well.
And they want to change the age to 21. You got to be 21 in order to own a firearm. And then you have, and also apply for a license. That license they want you to apply, they want you to have 24 hours of training.
And you have to get an insurance policy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
On issuance of the license, the individual will have in effect an insurance policy
no
issued
grease
under subsection D.
Oh, boy, I tell you. And the holder of a license is issued under this subparagraph supplies proof that the individual owns an antique firearm. It gets into a lot of different details, a lot of fine lines, man. This thing has some teeth to it. This will bite. And you know what? They have the power to pass this because the Democrats control the House, they control the Senate, and the White House. So there's no reason why they can't pass this. They can go in this all alone, all by themselves. This can pass.
Yeah, and they even have another subsection where they have different requirements for, quote, military-style weapons, where you have to, as deemed necessary by the licensed psychologists involved.
Ooh.
Evaluation included a psychological evaluation of other members of the household.
I'm starting to suck up to all my psychiatrists right now.
Ooh, as part of the psychological evaluation, the licensed psychologist interviewed any spouse of the individual, any former spouse of the individual, and at least two other persons who are a member of the family of or an associate of the individual.
I hope you good friends with your...
To further determine the state of the mental, emotional, and relational stability of the individual in relation to firearms.
I hope you're not friends with your ex.
I
hope you are friends with your ex. Boy, I tell you, they're going to get you here. This is a good one.
Oh, wow. They will interview your ex to ask them if you're fit.
Okay, you ready for this? The term military-style weapon means any firearm or copies of duplicates of the firearm in any caliber, known as Norinco, Mitchell, Polytechnologies, Action Arms, Israeli Military Industries, UZI, Beretta, Colt, Colt AR-15, baby. That's right. Steyr, Intratec. That Tech 9, Tech DC-9, Tech 22, revolving cylinder shotguns such as or similar to the Street Sweeper or Striker 12, a semi-automatic rifle that has an ability to accept a detachable magazine and has at least two of a folding telescoping stock, a pistol grip that protrudes beneath the action of the weapon, a bayonet mount, a flash suppressor, a grenade launcher,
or threaded barrel,
a semi-automatic pistol that has an ability to accept a detachable magazine and has at least two of an ammunition magazine that attaches to the pistol outside of the pistol grip, a threaded barrel capacity of accepting a barrel extender, a shroud that is attached to or partially or completely encircles the barrel and that permits the shooter to hold the firearms with the non-trigger hand without being fired, a manufactured weight of 50 ounces or more, a semi-automatic version of the automatic firearm, a semi-automatic shotgun that has at least two of the folding telescopic stock, a pistol grip that protrudes, a fixed magazine capacity in excess of 5 rounds, an ability to accept a detachable magazine. It includes a lot.
Jeez.
Derek Wills.
This is why the state is evil. They will always be evil because they always seem to find a way to have more of a say over your life, your property, and the fruits of your labor than you do. This is a violation of property rights. This is a violation of your right to own the tools you deem necessary to defend your life and your property. They are castrating everyone. But, I guess since we duly elected them, it's okay, right? It's just fine. We'll just lobby the legislature next time. We'll take it up with the courts, and the courts are, they're an independent group from the government, and they'll see the error of their ways, and they'll strike it down, just like the bump stock. Oh, wait, never mind. I'm not so stupid. There'll be ways to fix this. It's fine. It's duly elected. We did it. It's the will of the people, guys, okay?
And so I got a question. Do any of y'all actually give this a real chance of becoming law?
Yeah.
Okay, I will make any of you a wager. I'll give you 3-to-1 odds that President Biden doesn't sign anything close to this. 3-to-1 odds. You take me right now.
I'll bet you under table inside the hand job that it does.
We just shook hands for those.
I know that got dumped.
Because
oh, come on.
There's also a bill in the Texas House right now to make Texas its own republic again. It could pass. It really could. You know what?
Well,
we would lose Social Security. Let me go on fear mongering for 10 minutes about how that bill.
Why do you think this does have a chance to pass? You got like 10 seconds.
Because about 85% of it is probably pragmatically impossible to get through a Senate where Manchin is not going to vote with Democrats to make sure that they lose political relevance for the next 20 years, because they're not idiots, because they're not going to pass something that they know can't be enforced and isn't reasonable.
So you think there's a portion of this that would actually pass?
No.
Not even a portion?
Maybe background checks.
So you think universal background checks don't pass?
Yeah,
right,
maybe we get that done.
We'll talk about that next Sunday.
Maybe.
As always, more guns equals less crime. You go out there and you buy yourself a gun. You've been listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.